Alrighty, today is so much fun. It is relationships of functions. Yes, sirree. This is right up there with going to the dentist to have your teeth pulled. That's how much fun this one is. Okay, so it should be review for most of you. And that is over domain, range, and that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Got your computer back. You have the school one in there too, huh? But you like this one better, huh? Does that one submit homework? We should try doing that then. Yeah. All right, domain, range, function, determining relationship. Again, today is very dry, I apologize. And this is the way it is sometimes. We have another section tomorrow, will be function notation, finish up Friday, we'll have a practice test on Monday, we'll review on Monday, and guess what we're having on Wednesday, our first summative assessment for 2.4 million points. So you better study. That's right. That's right, got it. All right, try to liven this thing up as best we can, which could be difficult. Cartesian coordinate system. Hopefully you know what the x is. This is my x-axis, this is right along this line right here. Okay, so my first x here, my x would be what? -2. Are there any next x would be? 0, just to review here, the next x would be 3, and the next x would be 5. Nothing too earth-shattering there, you all know that, you've been doing this in 7th grade, right? X is also called the domain. So our x values are our domain, and sometimes we might call it the input. You remember that from Algebra 1, I assume, okay? So there's your domain input values. Range, or your y values, the y values here, okay? Of course, this is your y-axis, the first one would be 0 right here, then we're looking at 1, then we're looking at 3, and then we're looking at 4. This is our range, or our output. Range and domain, input, output. How do we go there? All right. Couple things here, definitions of domain, range. We just talked about a relation. Let's get to what a relation is. We all have relations, sometimes called relatives. Kind of direct, the same word, I assume. So a relation is a pairing of values with an output value. And we will do these with functions quite often. These are a lot of times when we have math is an ordered pair, an XY ordered pair from the Cartesian coordinate system, you know, the XY coordinate system that we just showed you. A guy by the name of Rene Descartes came up with it quite a few years ago. If you're interested, I have a history of math over here. These are awesome books to put you to sleep. I don't know why his parents named him Rene, but he wasn't male. He came up with this solely to torture math students in high school. And he's done a pretty good job with it. So Rene Descartes came up with the Rene Descartes system, which is coordinates, the coordinate plane. So of course, we've talked about that already. The set of input values is the domain. The set of output values is the range. Domain and range, something you've heard before and been drilled into your head numerous times, I'm sure. So today we're going to work with some functions. There are certain relationships that have something special. Just because it's a relationship doesn't mean it's a function. Functions are a little different, okay? So relationship is a pairing of input values and output. Does not mean it's a function. Is everybody clear? It's only a function if it has a certain mapping, okay? We've already talked about this. I'm gonna move on. I don't think that's important. Suppose, let's go ahead and go with this. You entered the number 6, the number 2, the number 8. There was a day, not so long ago, before we had wonderful cell phones with keyboards on them, that there was something called T9, and that's how we text. So you know the flip phones, you guys would never even use one now, right? You see a person with a flip phone, and you're like, it's a grandpa, right? Just like me. But I have an iPhone. This is probably still older than most of you. This is a 6, I think. Is that right? Anybody know these very well? I think this is a 6 letter. Has a letter with it too, because it's bigger than some. 6S maybe, 6 plus. I don't know. I've had it for a while. It does the job. I get text. I can send pictures. I'm good with it. So, grab your cell phone right now. If I were back in the day, you'd have to text. Your texting would be numbers. Get it? There you go, calculator. All right. What letters go with 6 on your phone? M, N, and O. What goes with the deuce? Oh, we're going with ABC here. A, B, C. 8. Of course, what did I have this morning? I had a banana and a yogurt. T. U. U? U's. U. V. T, U, V. How about bad golf shot 4? G, H, I. Now, this ingenious program would see the letters and it would come up with a word that you think you meant. And if it meant that word, you hit that. Just like, now when we text sometimes, you're writing and it comes up what you think you're supposed to write and you just, that's pretty cool. Well, so that was the same with this thing. What do you think this might spell? It's kind of like Scrabble, isn't it? Kind of like Wheel of Fortune, Scrabble, a mixture of a bunch of stuff that nobody cares. So what do you think? Math. It does spell math. How about that? We can spell math here. M-A-T-H. And of course, we're not spelling science. We're spelling math. Luke, what do you think of that, buddy? Pretty good stuff right there. So, this is a relationship. Okay? Make sense? What's the relationship look like? Well, if I put 6, 2, 8, these are the ordered pairs. 6 could go to M, 6 could go to M, 6 couldn't it? 2 can go to 8. I don't think there's any other number any other word that would spell from those 4. I never really tried to investigate it long enough, but does it make sense? Yeah. It's a relationship. Now, whether it's a function or not is another question. Okay? We've already talked about this. If you're told in text, you determine that 6, 2, 8, and 4 because each appears only one. Here is the key. A relationship in which the first coordinate, what is the first coordinate? Our domain, our input, is never repeated, is called a function. Very important. That's it for today. That's the main thing today. It's never repeated. It's called a function. The first coordinate is never repeated. It's called a function. So the element of the domain is mapped to exactly one element of the range. I told you this is pretty bad, wasn't it? Didn't it? Function. Wait a minute. Hanging in there? Yeah. So there are two types of functions. One, okay, so they're all relationships, but then some relationships are not functions. Everybody understand that? So what is a function? Well, one-to-one mapping is a function, one-to-one. And a many-to-one. What do those look like? Here is a many-to-one, okay? So our domain is many, and it goes to one. So the first is always paired. It doesn't repeat. A doesn't repeat, B doesn't repeat, C does. See the difference? Okay. So yes, this is a function. The easiest function, there's another one like this, would be a one-to-one. So if we had 1, 2, 3 here, and each of these went to one, that would be a one-to-one function. You see what I'm saying there? Okay. This happens to be a many-to-one, which is okay. So many-to-one, and the other type is one-to-one. So I'm hoping maybe you can think about your cell phone and get this down in your head. Now, the opposite is not, okay? Because if I hit the number 2, I don't know what letter it means, you see? You see, the input can go to A, B, or C. That's called a one-to-many, not a function. Still a relationship, but not a function. Still a relationship. It's not unique. So I chose the cell phone to hopefully help you think about numbers there. How's that make you feel? You got an idea? Many-to-one, if you're writing any notes, many-to-one, one-to-one are functions. Many-to-one and one-to-one, they are functions. One-to-many is not. One-to-many is not a function. One-to-many is not a function. All right. From the items in the store to their prices on a certain date. What do you think? One-to-one, many-to-one. One-to-many. Is it a function? These are always a little tricky. So only one price for a different item on a certain date. So it is a one-to-one, it is a function. Okay, here's an example of one that might not be. Types of fruit to their color. So apple, type apple to its color. That's a one-to-many, is that? It's not, okay? That makes sense? Can you think of another fruit that has, or another type of fruit that has different colors? Grapes, very good. Apples and grapes, not. So if you think about that, it might help you think what is and what isn't. All right. I'm gonna skip this guy. We're gonna go right to this important part right here. This is the last thing for today, and it's called the vertical line test. Most of our work with functions will be done with graphing, okay? So the vertical line test allows us to say whether something is a function. If a vertical line can pass through more than one point on the graph, vertical, of course, vertical line, the relationship is not a function. So for example, here is a function, of course. Vertical line test, no matter where we go, up and down, it only passes once. A lot of our work will be done with graphs, okay? Here is obviously crosses once, crosses twice, nada. Okay? Not a function. Woohoo! You guys are hanging in there pretty good, thank you. How about this guy right here? Would he work? Is he yay a function or nay?
Yay.
Yes, he is. Vertical line test. Okay? Do you think this is a 1-to-1 or is it a many-to-1? It is a many-to-1. Okay? Let's show you what a 1-to-1 function looks like. We'll be studying these in chapter 2. You should know them well. It goes like this. What do we call that? It's a straight line or a linear. Remember linear? We had the standard form of a linear would be y equals good old mx plus b. B being the intercept. Looks like that's about 5. We'll make that intercept 5. We'll make this 0, 5 here also. So that would be 5, whoops, this would be 5, 0. And this would be 0, 5. Slope would be 1, so this would be y equals x plus 5. Now, we'll be getting into linears in chapter 2, which is mx plus b. Okay? What you had in algebra 1 should be pretty straight up and easy for you. How about this guy right here? Vertical line test. Function or no function? It is a function, okay? Anybody know what type of function? It's not a linear by no means, it's a non-linear, you're right about that. It's not a linear, it's a non. There's a name for it, anybody know? It's a quadratic, of course. Ax squared plus bx plus c. What drove you crazy about quadratics in algebra 1? The F word, factoring. Factor, we had to factor. That can always be a struggle. We're going to do some of that when we get to quadratics later on in this semester. Yay or nay? Function or not? Anybody? No. Vertical line test tells us it's not. All right. You guys have been awesome. What do you think on that guy? Circle. Function? No. Got a couple problems we can run through, knock them out. And we'll call it a day for today. Thank you, you guys were great today.